France was waiting, almost without knowing it, for exactly what he intended to become, and Napoleon Bonaparte was not a man who kept people waiting for long. The government he returned to in the autumn of 1799 was called the Directory, and it was, by almost any measure, a failure. 5 directors squabbled over power. The treasury was hollow. The armies were stretched. 2 years of political rot had left the Republic exhausted and cynical. Citizens who had once marched under the banner of liberty and equality now simply wanted order. They wanted bread. They wanted someone to make the chaos stop. Napoleon looked at the Directory and saw not an institution to serve, but a carcass to replace. The plan came together quickly. It had accomplices: his brother Lucien, who held the presidency of the lower legislative chamber, and the seasoned schemer Emmanuel Joseph CS, who believed he could use Napoleon as a tool and discard him afterward. CS would learn, very soon, that he had badly misjudged his instrument. The coup unfolded on the 18th and 19th of Brumaire, the 8th month of the revolutionary calendar, which placed it in early November 1799. The first day went smoothly enough. The councils were persuaded, under manufactured pretense of a Jacobin conspiracy, to relocate to the Palace of St. Cloud outside Paris. Napoleon was given command of the troops in the capital. So far, so elegant. The second day was a mess. Napoleon entered the chamber of the Council of 500 and was met not with submission, but with fury. Deputies surged toward him, shouting. Some grabbed at his uniform. Grenadiers had to pull him from the room. He emerged pale, shaken, nearly incoherent. This man who had stared down cannon fire on the streets of Paris 4 years earlier was rattled by politicians. It was Lucien who saved the moment. Standing before the troops outside, he declared dramatically that daggers had been drawn against his brother inside. It was a lie, or close enough to one. But it worked. The soldiers entered, the deputies scattered into the night. And just like that, the Directory was finished. Within weeks, a new constitution was drafted. It created 3 consuls, with the First Consul holding virtually all executive power. The vote to ratify it was, by any honest accounting, manipulated, but it passed, and Napoleon Bonaparte was First Consul of the French Republic. He was 30 years old. Now came the part that history sometimes overlooks, dazzled as it is by battles and crowns, because what Napoleon did next was not merely consolidate power through force. He built, he organized, he legislated at a pace that left his ministers breathless and his enemies bewildered. He understood something that pure conquerors rarely grasp, that lasting power is not seized, it is constructed, brick by brick, law by law, institution by institution. The first great achievement was the Napoleonic Code, formally completed in 1804 but hammered into shape across these early consular years. France before the Revolution had been a patchwork of incompatible legal traditions: Roman law in the south, customary law in the north, feudal exceptions everywhere. The Code swept it away. It established equality before the law, the right to property, freedom of religion, the abolition of feudal privilege. It was not perfect. Its treatment of women was a significant step backward from some Revolutionary-era gains, but as a foundation for a modern legal system, it was extraordinary. It spread across Europe with French armies and outlasted those armies by centuries. Much of the world's legal tradition today still carries its fingerprints. Then came the Concordat with Rome. This was a masterstroke of pragmatic politics. The Revolution had savaged the Catholic Church in France, confiscating its lands, closing its institutions, executing its priests. Many French people, especially in the countryside, had never forgiven the Republic for it. Napoleon himself was not a believer in any conventional sense. But he understood religion as a social force, a source of stability and legitimacy. In 1801, he negotiated a settlement with Pope Pius VII. The church would recognize the revolutionary land transfers, meaning the peasants who had bought church property could sleep soundly. In return, Catholicism would be restored as the faith of the majority of French citizens, and the Pope would confirm bishops appointed by the state. It was, in essence, Napoleon buying the church's cooperation while keeping it firmly under his thumb. The Pope accepted. He had little choice. Finance was another battlefield, and here too Napoleon imposed order. The Banque de France was established in 1800, creating a stable national institution to manage currency and credit. Tax collection was rationalized and centralized. For the first time in generations, France had a government that could actually pay its bills. That might sound mundane. It was not. A solvent state is a strong state, and Napoleon knew it. Education was reorganized from the ground up. The lycée system, state-run secondary schools designed to train a meritocratic elite, was created to feed talent into the military and civil service. Napoleon wanted capable men, and he wanted them loyal to France and to him. The system was rigorous, disciplined, and deliberately national in character. It produced generations of administrators, officers, and engineers who carried French ideas across a continent. What is remarkable, standing back and looking at all of it, is the sheer density of transformation in so short a time. Within 5 years of the coup, France had a new legal code, a reorganized church relationship, a functioning central bank, a reformed educational system, a restructured military hierarchy, and a government that, whatever its authoritarian character, actually functioned. The French people noticed. Plebiscites, however imperfect, showed genuine popular approval. Napoleon was not simply tolerated. For a time, he was genuinely beloved. He had taken a broken, exhausted country and given it the one thing it craved above all else, the feeling that someone was in charge, that the chaos had an end, that France was not merely surviving, but rising. He had not yet crowned himself. That would come. But in a real sense, the crown was already his. Every reform, every institution, every law bore his stamp. France did not belong to the Republic anymore. It belonged to him, and he had made himself indispensable before anyone fully realized what had happened. That is how the cleverest seizures of power work, not with a single dramatic blow, but with 1,000 quiet, necessary things, until the man and the state become, in the minds of the people, the same.